Hi YouTube, back with another Marvel reaction video. So we're watching Deadpool 2. This came out in 2018, so 8 years ago. Let's get into it. Wait, what just happened?
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of 2018's Deadpool 2. This is the 11th installment of our X-Men Snicked rewatch as we go back through all 13 of the Fox X-Men and Deadpool films ahead of Wolverine's Mutant Homecoming and Deadpool and Wolverine in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is the film with a post-credits scene that totally obliterated several timelines and franchises, and we're still waiting to see what crazy havoc that could wreak on the multiverse in Deadpool 3. So let's break down Deadpool 2 scene by scene for all the Easter eggs, details you never spotted, and stuff that could come back in Deadpool and Wolverine. And to celebrate this X-Men rewatch, we have these special Xavier Institute shirts, which are the best way to support New Rockstars right now. Grab one of these designs by clicking on the link in the description. So we open with Deadpool smoking a cig. He blows the smoke directly at the camera and winds up this music toy. In the first film, he had a Weapon 11 X-Men Origins Deadpool action figure, and here he's got a toy of Wolverine impaled on a stump from the end of the 2017 Logan film, which came out a year before this. He taps on the stump as if to make the injury hurt more for Logan, and he activates this toy, and it plays All Out of Love by Air Supply, in keeping with the cheesily awesome 80s love ballads theme from the first film, the Juice Newton Angel of the Morning song. This was also a song Ryan Reynolds sang in 2002's Van Wilder.
I'm all out of love. I'm so lost without you.
As Deadpool walks around his apartment destroying things, he wears his blue Crocs that we saw him wear in the previous film. On his corkboard, there's a pamphlet for Amber Borman Live. Amber Borman worked in the art department of this film. There are also some photos of Deadpool and Vanessa together, including one of them in Christmas hats. There's also a Canadian flag and a note that reads, I like you, do you like me, yes or no, with yes checked off. As he blows up his place and himself, the hand on Deadpool's severed arm flips us a bird as he says,
Wolverine. First, he rides my coattails with the R rating. Then, the hairy mother ups the ante by dying.
Now, some fans thought that Logan was allowed to have an R rating after the success of the first Deadpool, but director James Mangold insisted that Logan was already rated R before Deadpool was even released. And I like how with these opening words and gestures, we're really getting the sense that Deadpool and Wolverine coming together was just destined. Deadpool says that he's dying in his film too, and then he flashes back 6 months earlier to the start of a global killing spree in Hong Kong. The characters in the neon sign on the rooftop translate to Deadpool. On his portable mini radio, he listens to DMX's X Gonna Give It To Ya, the song that he and Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead walked in slow motion to during the first movie's big fight scene outside of the helicarrier. When he calls his target, Deadpool says it's Gail calling, which is a shout out to Deadpool comics writer Gail Simone. In keeping with his method of only messing up people who deserve it, these guys are all mobsters and sex traffickers. He kills them to Dolly Parton's 925, and the fight choreography is awesome. And just a note to the viewer, there were different versions of Deadpool 2 that came out. There was the original May 2018 theatrical version, but then they released like a super duper cut with deleted scenes and some crazier jokes that weren't necessarily as funny as the theatrical version. And then they did like a Christmas special that had some like Fred Savage, Princess Bride framing story elements to it. I'm gonna be referencing all the versions in this breakdown. But this montage takes Deadpool to Sicily, where he pops out of a casket at a funeral to kill a mafioso and his goons.
Do not go in there!
Yeah, he's referencing Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura.
Do not go in there. Woo!
Then at a bathhouse in Osaka in Japan, he gets blood in the eye of his mask and calls for a timeout, again treating the eyes of the mask like his real but cartoony eyes. He gets a look at one of the guy's junk and calls him Scoutmaster Kevin. Later on, he and Vanessa both agree that the name Kevin is too strippery. These are probably both nods to Kevin Feige. In Biloxi, Deadpool poses as a stripper before killing a bunch of guys belonging to the biker gang Burning Bastards. Burning Bastards MC is the name of an erotic book series classified as Alpha Biker Romance. And as Deadpool says he needs to go because it's his anniversary, he taps his watch. This is his Adventure Time watch that we saw him wearing in the first film. He later gives it to Domino when he's dying. Deadpool described that first film as a love story, and this one he claims is a family film. In the super duper cut, these fight scenes were all extended with even more blood and death. Like, look at that thing that we can't show you, and that thing that we can't show you. Waiting outside the cab is Dopinder, listening to a self-help tape on confidence from motivational speaker Tony Robbins. As Deadpool is chased by a mob, he shouts at Dopinder to start the cab. cab in a scene that's similar to the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. The ad on top of Dopinder's taxi is for Alpha Flight. Alpha Flight is, of course, the Canadian mutant superhero team. The ad reads, cheap deals, last-minute flights, travel insurance, book now, call 555-0121. It is worth noting that in the comics, Wolverine was briefly a member of the Alpha Flight. Dopinder asks Deadpool, mission accomplished? And Deadpool responds in a George W. way, a reference to President George W. Bush's speech that he gave after he launched the US-led invasion of Iraq with a very premature victory banner. Deadpool says he's talked about in the same sentence as Jesus. In the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, he refers to himself as Marvel Jesus, but here he's referring to the fact that the first Deadpool film almost surpassed Passion of the Christ as the highest grossing R-rated movie at the time, and Deadpool did surpass it overseas, where he says there's no such thing as religion. Just like in the previous film, Deadpool squeezes himself through the taxi divider window and into the front seat with maximum effort. He tells Dopinder, talk to me, Goose. Goose being co-pilot to Tom Cruise's Maverick and Top Gun. Dopinder wants to become a contract killer and has a different Tom Cruise movie in mind, though, saying Deadpool is the Tom Cruise to his Kirsten Dunst in Interview with the Vampire. Wade gives Vanessa a list of excuses for why he's late, including that he was fighting a caped badass, but then discovered that his mom's name was Martha too, which is a dig to Batman v Superman, and one of several Batman nods in this film, because while the first Deadpool movie was kind of a parody of every superhero movie that came out before 2016, this second one had to catch up with everything that came out during 2016 and then the couple years after. Later on, Vanessa dismisses Bruce as a potential baby name. Miranda Backer and actually co-starred in the show Gotham, where she played the girlfriend of Jim Gordon. Deadpool will also have this exchange with Cable.
Who are you?
They all never finish that show.
And right after this, Deadpool says to him, you're so dark, are you sure you're not from the DC universe? Poking fun at films like The Dark Knight, but mostly, probably, Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman. Wade and Vanessa exchange gifts, and he gives her the lead skee-ball token from their first date, setting up how Cable will use it to save his life later. She gives him her IUD, which she had removed so that they could have a baby. He tells her,
Oh my god, I want a boy. Or a little girl, definitely one or the other.
Later, they watch Yentl, which is a movie in which Barbara Streisand is a woman pretending to be a man. Wade says that the song Papa Can You Hear Me sounds familiar, and later he realizes that it does sound a bit like Do You Want to Build a Snowman from Frozen. And this is just another example of the fact that Wade is a huge musical theater nerd. He loved Bernadette Peters and Rent in the first movie. He references 24601 in this movie. Yeah, I think musical theater is gonna come up in Deadpool 3. Wade wonders if men are destined to become their fathers, like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, and Vanessa once again corrects him when he talks about the kiss Luke and Leia share.
No, I'm pretty sure Luke nailed her.
Maybe that's Empire.
In the first film, she made a similar correction when she said that she was going to write him like Luke on Yoda, and he mentioned her making a Star Wars joke, and she properly used the term Star Wars instead of A New Hope. It's not like A New Hope is inaccurate. It's just like, you know, people who grew up with Star Wars and Empire just called it Star Wars and not A New Hope yet. But Vanessa gets killed. And it's worth noting that Wade throwing the ice cream cheese spreader at Volishnikov is what caused him to flinch and fire wildly and hit Vanessa instead. This fight and Vanessa's death all take place in a span of time it takes her to heat up toaster strudels, because the scene is punctuated with a pop-up. This pivotal moment for him as he chases down Volishnikov shoeless in the rain is similar to his wet shoeless fight with Ajax in the lab in the first movie. He must have gotten a lot of glass in his feet during both of those fights. There's a James Bond-esque opening credit sequence set to Celine Dion's Ashes. Instead of the scope of a gun and a bullseye, Deadpool is centered in the middle of cream cheese spreaders. The credits have once again been given a Deadpool spin, reading a film by Wait a Minute, then produced by Did You Just Kill Her? Presented by What the in association with I Don't Understand, starring obviously someone who hates sharing the spotlight, written by the real villains. In the first movie, the credit read written by the real heroes here. And then it says cinematography by Blind Al, and then directed by one of the guys who killed the dog in John Wick. That would be David Leitch, who, yes, had worked on the John Wick films from an intense background as a stunt coordinator, and now has moved on from this film to have quite an impressive career. The bottom of Deadpool's katana has BEA engraved on it. That's for B. Arthur. In the comics, Wade loves her and the Golden Girls, and in the first film, he wore a t-shirt with her face on it. The barrel of the gun reads, smile, wait for the flash, and he does a wet chair dance move like from Flashdance, but with gold bullet casings instead of water. There's also Cable's daughter's teddy bear, which gets torn apart by bullets, and at one point, the camera swoops through Deadpool's bullet hole, which is the same spot where he will later take a bullet for Russell. Then at the end of the sequence, the bullet flies through a stack of arcade tokens, since Cable will later used the arcade token to save Deadpool's life by stopping the bullet. In Sister Margaret's bar, Wade is looking rough. He says George Michael was right, I'm never gonna dance again, which is a callback to him playing Wham's Careless Whisper at the end of the first film when he and Vanessa came back together. He also says, at least we still have Bowie, clearly unaware that David Bowie had died in January of 2016. Dopinder works the bar now, his first step toward becoming a contract killer. Buck messes up his lines and Wade tells him, no more speaking lines for you. We see Buck in the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, so we will see if he ever gets to say anything. It'd be kind of a fun bit if he never actually gets any lines. I guess not as fun for the actor who plays him. I guess I do kind of want him to get lines so he gets paid more. In Blind Al's apartment, she listens to Jack Benny on the radio doing his famous your money or your life routine. Wade retrieves his cocaine from under a floorboard, which is, like he told her in the first film, hidden next to the cure for blindness. Blind Al tells Wade he needs to just keep living, and he calls her Matthew McConaughey, a nod to his famous line from Dazed and Confused.
You just gotta keep living, man. L-I-V-I-N.
Wade shoves the coke under his mask, and after he says he's gonna do something terrible, he waves his coke-dusted hands and it makes a magical pixie dust noise. And then we are back to blowing himself up. In the Super Duper cut, there was a montage of Deadpool trying different ways to kill himself. He throws himself into the polar bear enclosure at the zoo. He drinks drain cleaner. He throws himself off a building. He also says he just needs to find a way to die
can use it outside in
harder.
alley.
After Colossus brings Deadpool to the X-Mansion and says he took the liberty of dressing him, the shirt he wears has two cats on it and reads Olivia and Meredith, best friends forever. Olivia and Meredith were the names of the cats of what famous pop star who's friends with Ryan Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively? Taylor Swift. Negasonic Teenage Warhead's girlfriend Yukio is played by Shioli Kutsuna. We saw a different version of Yukio in The Wolverine played by Rila Fukushima. Wade calls her Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony, who is an adorable all-pink pony who bakes and sings. There is a bunch of X-Men nods and references in this part of the movie, like Wade hijacks Professor X's X-spoked wheelchair and recklessly drives it around the mansion. And calling back to the first film, he makes another joke about how the studio should throw them a bone and give them some more X-Men cameos, but unseen by Wade, a room full of X-Men quietly closes the doors before he spots them. These include James McAvoy as Charles Xavier, Nicholas Hoult as Beast, Evan Peters as Quicksilver, Ty Sheridan as Cyclops, Alexandra Shipp as Storm, and Cody Smith-McPhee as Nightcrawler. And yes, this is completely crazy because Deadpool 2 is supposed to take place in the present day, and these are all the versions of them from like either the 80s or the 90s, but it would be early 90s. It does not make sense for them to look like this in the present day, but you know what? Deadpool is just its own cartoony universe where anybody can just show up and cameo. Wade also mentions the putz with the giant pigeon wings, obviously referring to Angel. We saw two versions of him in the films, Ben Foster in The Last Stand and then Ben Hardy in Apocalypse. And Wade wears the Cerebro helmet and says it smells like Patrick Stewart. So again, he's saying he smells like Patrick Stewart, but we just saw James McAvoy. But when asked about this, David Leitch talked about all of those cameos, saying that Dark Phoenix was shooting at the same time as Deadpool 2, and that set supervisor Dan Glass had the idea that wouldn't require everyone to be on set together. Leitch said, quote, "We shot our side here and we sent the measurements and the camera positions and things up to Simon's team on Dark Phoenix," referring to Simon Kinberg, "and they shot the plate for that there. Then we put the two together. So actually it turned out to be easier than we thought. If we would have had to get all those people in the room, it probably wouldn't have happened." Then we meet Cable, played by Josh Brolin. In the comics and X-Men animated series, Cable is Nathan Summers, son of Cyclops and a Jean Grey clone named Madeline Pryor, who's created by Mr. Sinister. We get a nod to Mr. Sinister when Deadpool and the others go to the Essex House for Mutant Rehabilitation. Sinister's real name was Nathaniel Essex. He actually did run an orphanage at one point, with the goal being to manipulate and control young mutants. Here, Cable travels back in time to destroy Russell Collins, aka Fire Fist, played by Julian Dennison, before Russell can become a supervillain in the future and kill Cable's wife and daughter. As Cable swipes through time periods, his computer shows images of Ronald Reagan, Joseph Stalin, a military tank, what looks like men storming the beaches of Normandy, and just to remind you, Wolverine and Sabretooth were there. And then we see the Blackbird in flight. The time travel device he uses resembles a watch. This is actually a Carl F. Bucherer watch brand. Bucherer watches were featured heavily in John Wick 2, the movie David Leitch worked on before making Deadpool 2. The Super Duper cut also includes a deleted scene where they're just kind of hanging out at the X-Mansion like we see in like the X-Men 90s animated series. Colossus is doing burpees in the yard, and Wade inside the kitchen complains that his fridge food labels are not being honored. We see a label for Wheels and Beast, so presumably Wade knows that Charles and Hank are around the mansion, or at least he expects them to show up. Colossus complains that the soap dispenser has been refilled, but Wade just used all of it, and I love how Yukio gives him this look like he knows what she used it for. The scene ends with him like running his finger along the wall and like indicating we know what he did there. But I think the scene was cut honestly because it's like the one time Deadpool doesn't leave the scene by going, "Bye, Yukio." When Colossus, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and new X-Men trainee Deadpool arrive at Essex House, the news ticker at the bottom reads, "Weather report, abnormally high winds expected in downtown area," which seems like a storm reference, but it will also come back later in the film. And then it reads, celebrity news, Christopher Plummer refuses role in Deadpool 2, which was rumored to be a joke surrounding TJ Miller's abuse allegations and idea that he might get recast. Christopher Plummer had just reshot all of Kevin Spacey's scenes in the movie All the Money in the World after Kevin Spacey faced his own allegations. And it's worth noting that Kevin Spacey had previously worked with X-Men director Bryan Singer in The Usual Suspects.
Wait,
and then finally on the ticker, Crime Watch, notorious bank robbers Westervelt and Gizas arrested Sunday evening after high-speed chase. Dick Westervelt is an editor on the film, and Nick Gizas did visual effects. The news reporter on the scene is Irene Merriweather of WHIT. Now in the comics, Irene Merriweather was an investigative reporter who got on the wrong side of the Hellfire Club after doing research for a story on them. She becomes involved with Cable. She shows up later in the film in the news helicopter that shreds Shatterstar into green goo. A DMC officer says Russell belongs in the Icebox. That is Canada's maximum security prison for superhumans. In the Marvel world, Russell calls Negasonic Justin Bieber, so Deadpool likes him right off the bat. Both of them also call out Colossus for using the "come quietly or there will be trouble" line from RoboCop. In the first film, it was Deadpool who quoted RoboCop, making fun of him.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
When Russell blasts Deadpool into the building, he autographs a box of Hero Flakes, which has Hugh Jackman's Wolverine on the front. He signs it as Ryan Reynolds with the little Deadpool logo. The kid eating cereal is played by Luke Rossler, who played young David, son of Professor X, in the show Legion. Deadpool jumps out the window and does a superhero landing, and then struggles to get to his feet, calling back this moment from the first film.
Woo! Superhero landing. Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
He also calls back Colossus's 4 or 5 moments speech before just shooting this guy. The first speech also ended with him murdering someone, if you remember. The guard who puts the power dampening collar on Russell is this movie's stunt coordinator, Sam Hargrave, who also worked on Infinity War and Endgame, Captain America Civil War, and a bunch of others, and also went on to be an impressive stunt director turned movie director with the Extraction movies with Chris Hemsworth. With David Leitch and Sam Hargrave, I'm just always really impressed when stunt guys become directors, because they always make really good action movies. Wade and Russell are brought to the icebox, and with the power dampener on, Wade's cancer comes back since his mutation can't cure it. It just regenerates the cells that are destroyed by the cancer. The guard who says "nighty night, you little prick" is Mike Dopid, another Canadian stunt actor from stuff like X-Men Origins Wolverine and Days of Future Past. Cable arrives from the future and robs these two rednecks discussing toilet paper and proper butt wiping etiquette while listening to Escape, the Pina Colada song by Rupert Holmes. These are cameos from Matt Damon and Alan Tudyk as Cable knocks them out and steals their trucks. This is the first of several Terminator parallels for the character. Before the role was cast, there were many who rallied for it to go to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Later, Cable does a one-handed spin reload of his gun, which was Arnold's signature move in T2, and Cable repairing himself while staring coldly in the mirror is also very Arnold in Terminator. And specifically, go look at the shot and the way James Cameron figured out that shot for T2. When Arnold looks in the mirror, they used Linda Hamilton's twin sister to rig up that shot. To use that visual illusion, there was no actual mirror there. This is something that Tom Cruise does in many of the Mission Impossible movies, and it's like my favorite practical effect. Deadpool tells Cable, hands off that kid John Connor, when they fight on the truck. So yeah, he's basically a Terminator figure. Everybody learns the hard way that you need a phone case, and if you're a Marvel fan, Casetify's Iron Man series will protect your phone with the kind of armor only a genius billionaire philanthropist playboy can inspire. Look, as a true Marvel obsessive, this is awesome. The arc reactor is obviously one of the things that kickstarted the MCU, but being able to
Marvel
hold
phone
it,
cases.
well, just makes my phone feel like it's in the Mark III suit. And this is just so cool. Like, Iron Man's chest armor is just so iconic. It makes flipping your phone face down during a meeting feel so satisfying. Like Thanos just punched your phone and he's taking a nap now. And these mag-safe accessories, awesome. This is my favorite though. It looks like it's just an Iron Man helmet maquette, which I would be plenty happy to have on my desk on its own. And the lights turn on, but you can flip it open and then slide your AirPod case inside and then close it back up. And it charges them.
Oh, it charges.
Casetify's official Marvel line is the perfect mix of form and function to keep your accessories safe and stylish. Head over to Casetify today and check out their Iron Man collection. On the back of the guy's truck is a pair of silver truck nuts, a bumper sticker that says this vehicle makes frequent stops at your mom's house, and the one that says save a horse, ride me. When Cable repairs and builds his gun, he outfits it with a knob that goes all the way up to 11, which is a nod to the famous scene from This Is Spinal Tap.
These go to 11.
We meet Black Tom Cassidy, brother of Sean Cassidy, Banshee in the Marvel Comics, and the butt of a bunch of jokes in this movie about a white guy with dreadlocks being named Black Tom. Cable busts into the icebox and takes out a whole bunch of dudes. Deadpool thinks he's there for him and asks what he did to piss off, quote, a grumpy old motherfucker with a Winter Soldier arm. He gets a couple more digs at the MCU, asking at what point will audiences say enough with the robotic arms? And that without his powers, they could, quote, give me a bow and arrow and I'm basically Hawkeye. He makes fun of Cable's utility pouch too, calling it a fanny pack and saying he had one in 1990 Never. In the early 90s, Cable and X-Force comics
probably has
artist Rob
something else
Liefeld
stashed in
strapped
there.
characters with a ridiculous number of pouches. And while
That was
Deadpool
also
says this,
important.
he also had a bandolier and a belt with, you know, probably too many pouches. After feeling rejected by Wade, Russell makes friends with the monster in the icebox basement, who we find out later is Juggernaut. Russell compares them to Tupac and Ice Cube. In Hunt for the Wilder People, Julian Dennison's character is obsessed with Tupac, which is what he named his dog. Deadpool and Weasel hold a casting call for X-Force members, and their stack of headshots is a picture of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The team is made up of Bedlam, played by Terry Crews. He can distort electrical fields. Also Zeitgeist, played by Bill Skarsgård. He spits acidic vomit. Both of these guys are from the X-Force comics. Zeitgeist has the number 116 tattooed on his shoulder. That's for his X-Force 116. Then there's Shatterstar, played by Louis Tan. Shatterstar comes from the Mojo world, where he fights as a gladiator celebrity for a TV network run by Mojo, an interdimensional TV producer alien. Next, we don't see the Vanisher, but later we find out that he is Brad Pitt. Yeah, there were so many crazy cameos in this. Then there's Domino, played by Zazie Beetz. She has the power of luck, which Deadpool argues isn't a real power. They go back and forth, and Deadpool says Mario Lopez, which is a callback to Wade's connection to Mario Lopez from the first movie. We saw him reading his autobiography in the first movie, and he also tackled Mario during an Access Hollywood taping to announce Deadpool's R rating. And then finally there is Peter, a normal dude with no powers, played by Rob Delaney, and Peter shows up in the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer. Every time a member is added to the team, notice their headshot is pinned to the wall with a knife, but the exception is Domino. No knife there. They use a tack for hers. The knives foreshadow the X-Force members, who totally die in the next sequence, but Domino with just a tack is the only new member to survive. As Cable stalks Deadpool in the alley of Sister Margaret's, the fencing he stands next to makes a series of X's. He kidnaps Weasel, who sells out Deadpool immediately under the threat of torture and warns Cable about the wind advisory in effect. Again, just setting up that the wind conditions are not good for a skydive. And Peter also brings us up right before the mission, all this setting up the spectacular way it all goes to hell. When Deadpool debriefs the X-Force, he uses this hand-drawn crayon map, which has a ton of fun details on it. In the upper corner in the mountains, he drew a little Wolverine in a cage, a reference to Wolverine's time locked up at Alpine Lake. Deadpool labeled him
They be peeping so much shit
reference to Hugh Jackman as Jean Valjean
in these videos.
in Les Miserables.
Who am I? 2, 4, 6, or 1.
He also wrote the word sequel money.
That's very loud,
City.
guys.
I made a joke about how the sequel's budget was way higher than they got for the first movie, allowing them to shoot a huge elaborate action sequence in a chase scene. There's also the words no need for a third act, which is a filmmaking joke. A lot of action movies have a big second act sequence, and if the hero's plan succeeds, the movie really could just end early. But these big plans have to fail for the third act to happen. Deadpool describes Cable as 5'11", not like in the comics. That's Josh Brolin's actual height. Ryan Reynolds is 6'2". In the comics, Cable is super tall and towers over Deadpool, but that's just kind of a running thing with Ryan in these movies. He's always like awkwardly lanky compared to characters who should be taller than him, or he has this relationship with Wolverine, who's supposed to be a stocky guy, and you know there's always going to be height jokes going on between the two of them. On the helicopter, Deadpool officially names the team X-Force, which Domino says is a little derivative. That's a joke about the X-Force comics in the late 80s. The series was totally a derivative attempt to reinvigorate the X-Men series. It's also just a carry on how a lot of things in the X-Men universe just had an X in front of random words for no reason other than branding. Right before the jump, Deadpool turns to camera and says, Laird, hit it! Laird is the name of the costume guy who helps Ryan Reynolds get in and out of his Deadpool costume on set. Reynolds gave him a shout out in that preview scene that played before Logan.
Where'd they think of Laird?
They jump out of the plane with Deadpool giving Peter an adorable little helping push, and AC/DC's Thunderstruck plays. They look awesome as they form an X in the air with their bodies. And it kind of reminds me of the opening scene of the 90s Power Ranger movie, which they just begin by skydiving. It's completely unnecessary to the plot of the movie, but it looks cool. But the high winds kick in, and they're brutal. And one by one, they all die, except Domino. And here we see Brad Pitt's one cameo just going... The Suicide Squad movie from James Gunn
I think I did see Brad Pitt,
same move
right?
Years later, putting together a hilarious group of superhero people, focusing on them heavily for a couple scenes, and then killing them off in a matter of minutes. Deadpool gets snagged and hangs like a marionette on a billboard reading Puppet Show today at noon, and he watches the rest of the team struggle with their parachutes. Bedlam gets hit by a truck, Shatterstar gets chopped up by a helicopter blade, and his alien green blood splatters on the windshield along with his ponytail. Yes, of course, Vanisher's death, and then Zeitgeist goes into a wood chipper, and Peter dies when he tries to help Zeitgeist, who pukes acid spit all over him. Deadpool walks by an ice cream truck with Fryer's treats on the side.
This part was
like
so crazy. I'm like, what the fuck?
The clone of Jean Grey, who's also Cable's mom. He steals a red scooter, which he does in Deadpool issue number 68. Domino makes it to the convoy, transporting
Suicide
the Icebox
Squad.
prisoners, and she flies right by a building with Stan Lee painted on the side. This street chase takes place on
I like the
Jerry
first
Dugan's
one.
Parkway. Jerry Dugan is a comic book writer who's written a lot of recent Deadpool comics. Domino also passes Bettini Boulevard. Ashley Bettini is a visual artist who worked on this film. It's pretty cool to see Domino so effectively just use luck to board this truck. And I gotta say, this movie completely proved us wrong. You really just see her effectively weaponizing luck in a way that doesn't just feel coincidental. There is like skill involved. And throughout this, we hear Deadpool arguing with her.
I mean, luck? What coked out, glass pipe sucking freak show comic book artist came up with that little chestnut? Probably a guy who can't draw feet!
Yeah, this is a reference to Deadpool co-creator Rob Liefeld, who had a small cameo in the first film. He rarely drew hands and feet, and when he did, they were criticized for having the wrong proportions. One of the mutants off the rig is a cameo from director David Leitch.
He
Deadpool
said
tells
fuck the
Cable.
hands and feet.
Give me your best shot, One-Eyed Willie.
That's a reference to the movie Goonies. The first movie
He
Josh
said,
Brolin
"Fuck
was
the
in.
hands and
Deadpool
feet."
recreates his sword moves from X-Men Origins of slicing a bullet in half, except instead of deflecting the other bullets here, he just gets shot a bunch. Russell unleashes Juggernaut, who was played by Vinnie Jones in The Last Stand, but here the motion capture and voice are actually done by Ryan Reynolds himself, as he punches the bottom of the rig, causing it to flip out of control.
Really?
Only time by Enya plays. Deadpool gets to do his
Everybody
favorite move
that.
of teabagging someone mid-fight. In the trailer, he actually did this by using toys.
Zip it, Cable.
I got the stones to help you.
No! No biting.
Domino safely lands on a giant inflatable panda. In the comics, Domino had pale white skin and a black diamond over one eye, kind of like a panda. Here, since she's played by Zazie Beetz, it's kind of like the opposite with a white diamond over her eye. Deadpool geeks out over meeting Juggernaut, naming a few specific issues. In Uncanny X-Men number 183, Juggernaut picks a fight with Colossus at a bar. In Thor 411, we learn that Juggernaut is capable of withstanding blows from Thor's hammer. And in X-Men Unlimited 12, Juggernaut is the main character. After Juggernaut rips him in half, Deadpool says,
I can't feel my legs! I can't feel... Oh no, they're right here!
probably a nod to this moment in X-Men First Class.
I can't feel my legs.
Bogus as hell.
Domino carries Deadpool's pieces like a backpack,
That was
just like
such a
Chewie did
sad
with
part,
C-3PO's
actually.
pieces in Empire Strikes Back. Back at the apartment, Wade regrows his legs, and
Oh
there's
my
another
God.
Goonies homage. He's wearing the Hawaiian shirt with the same pattern as the one
The
Chunk
baby
wears in that
feet is
movie. The
killing
stuffed
me.
unicorn from the first movie returns, just hanging out on the couch. After Wade no doubt did something awful with it. When Cable
What
shows
the
up,
fuck?
Wade uncrosses and then recrosses his baby legs, which Weasel calls the basic instinct from the famous Sharon Stone moment, and I can't believe they put this in the movie. As Cable tells him about Russell's future, there's another of many musical shout-outs as his daughter sings Tomorrow from Annie, which also plays
Annie.
later on when Deadpool takes the bullet for Russell. Adult Russell says, "Blessed are the wicked who are healed by my hand," which is something he stole from the evil headmaster, as that's what he would say when he tortured the kids. Deadpool plays Peter Gabriel's In Your Eyes outside the X-Mansion in attempt to get Colossus to join them. In the first film, he said he was going to hold a boombox up for Vanessa outside her window. Both of these are nods to when John Cusack famously did this in Say Anything. Juggernaut tells Russell that he wears his helmet to protect him from his brother, who's in a wheelchair. In the comics and in the
Spaz.
animated
Hi,
series,
Spaz.
Juggernaut is Charles Xavier's half-brother, and he
How's
wears
the
his
night?
helmet so Charles can't telepathically read his thoughts. Also, Juggernaut's not a mutant. Let's remember, his powers are magical-based. They stem from the Crimson Gem of Citrak. Deadpool, Cable, Domino, and Dopinder slow-motion
Right,
rush
that's
to
true.
the Essex house to the music of Welcome to the Party by Diplo, French Montana, and Lil Pump. Deadpool asks Russell why he's dressed like the Unabomber, referring to the police sketch of Ted Kaczynski where he's wearing dark sunglasses and a hoodie. Russell uses his powers on the orphanage door, and Cable says he's too far gone, but Deadpool responds,
Zip it, Thanos. We have a deal.
yeah, a very meta moment, as Josh Brolin did in fact play Thanos, and Deadpool is aware of this. Let's just remember, this character
Oh my
is
God,
going
that
into
is
you.
the
He's aware of this
dude.
here. As they fight Juggernaut, listen closely to the
I kept
operatic music that's
forgetting
playing.
who's the actual person who played Thanos.
Yeah, the choir is singing "He's the Juggernaut, holy shitballs" over and over again. This is Tyler Bates' "You Can't Stop This Mother," composed just for this film. Deadpool jumps on Juggernaut's head and tells him,
Hey, big guy, the sun's getting real low.
this is a nod to the way Black Widow tried to calm down the Hulk in Age of Ultron. Just like in the first film, Deadpool gets skewered through the head and goes a little loopy right as Colossus
Ouchie.
joins the fight. Deadpool tells him, time to sweep the leg, Johnny, a Karate Kid reference. Immediately
Plan
followed by
2K?
"Go get him, Tiger," which Mary Jane always says in the Spider-Man comics. It was also in the final line spoken by Kirsten Dunst in Spider-Man 2, and the first Deadpool movie referenced it as well. And in the Deadpool Wolverine trailer, his shirt has a tiger on it. Colossus tells
I
Juggernaut
can't
to
wait
pick on
to
someone his own size.
do
And the two
the
battle
first
it
3
out.
Spider-Man
In the animated
movies.
series, both of these characters show up in the same episode when Juggernaut destroyed the X-Mansion, but Colossus got the blame for it, so they've got history and beef. Yukio and Negasonic Teenage Warheads show up as reinforcements, and Juggernaut gets butt electrocuted and blasted into the water. Deadpool takes a bullet for Russell,
That was
saying his
wild.
heart was finally in the right place. The song playing over his death is Don't Be What They Made You by composer Marco
That is
Beltrami.
wild.
It's the same music that plays at the end of the Logan film in 2017 when he dies holding Boris' hand. Deadpool parodies that here with a long, drawn-out, over-the-top death that fakes us out several times.
They
He
just
calls
said his
Negasonic
name.
Sabrina
I
the
just-
Teenage Witch.
I
Reynolds
forgot
actually
that that's
appeared
the
as Seth
person
in the
who
1996 Sabrina the
plays
Teenage
him.
Witch movie. Once he finally dies, Wade goes to Vanessa, and Lars Hornvet's acoustic cover of Aha's Take On Me plays. Cable uses his last time travel charge to go back in time and place
That's
the
him.
lead arcade token directly where the bullet shoots Deadpool. He goes back to the exact moment Deadpool said, "The first time, I wish I could
Right.
turn back time and take all that back." Like, that moment stayed in Cable's mind as like a good
I'm
next
just gonna
moment to
look at my
return
phone.
to. Cable also tells him that his daughter's name is Hope. In the comics, Hope is Cable's adoptive daughter, the first mutant born after the events of the House of M decimation. Depinder mows the headmaster down with his car, so his cab was responsible
Yeah.
for 2 deaths
Yeah,
in
that's
2
him.
movies,
That's him.
this
That's
death,
him.
and his
That's him.
cousin Bandu, who he had locked in his trunk in the first film, and we never saw Bandu come out. And just like Kirsten Dunst says to Tom Cruise in Interview with the Vampire, he tells Deadpool, "I want some more." Pat Benatar's
I've never
We
seen a
Belong
movie.
plays, and as the group walks away, notice how
Interview
Juggernaut
with the Vampire?
slowly starts to hoist himself out of that water. There are some more fun doodles playing over the credits, with everyone credited being depicted by different Deadpools. Marina Baccarin is the only name that gets a glamour photo of herself instead of a drawing of Deadpool. There's a restaurant advertisement tacked up that reads Wilson's Chimichangas, a food that Deadpool always eats in the comics. And next to Jack Kesey's name is a to-do list that reads 1 world peace, 2 call Dopinder, 3 kill bad guys. There's also a cast photo of the Golden Girls. Now, in the post-credits montage scene, Deadpool calls Negasonic 11 as she fixes Cable's time travel device, obviously reference to Stranger Things 11, played by Millie Bobby Brown and her shaved head, and then shares "If I Could Turn Back Time" plays as Deadpool fixes some things in his past. First, he saves Vanessa by nailing the shooter in the head with a cream cheese spreader. He saves Peter from Zeitgeist acid vomit by telling him to just walk away. Then he goes beyond the events of this film and kills the previous iteration of Deadpool, Weapon 11 from X-Men Origins Wolverine. They actually reused the real footage of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine saying, "Stryker finally figured out how to shut you up." But then they reshot the angle with old Deadpool at a distance, with new Deadpool stepping into frame to shoot him in the head. And they had a stand-in for Hugh Jackman's arm in the foreground. Current Deadpool tells Jackman that he's just cleaned up the timeline as he shoots Origins Deadpool several more times. In a
Like
super
hella
duper cut,
times.
Deadpool hangs around a bit to talk to Wolverine some more.
Look, eventually you're gonna hang up the claws, and it's gonna make a lot of people very sad.
Huh?
But one day your old pal Wade's gonna ask you to get back in the saddle again. And when he does, say yes.
Then, as Ryan Reynolds himself sits at a desk with the script for Green Lantern in his hand saying, "Welcome to the big leagues, kid," Deadpool shoots him in the head, splattering his brains all over the script. Deadpool looks directly to camera and says,
I did
"Welcome
not
to
realize
Canada."
that
Both
had
Green
happened
Lantern
right
and
there.
Origins were received less than positively, we'll say, but he finally got it right with Deadpool, and so that's a legacy he wants to leave behind. In the super duper cut, Deadpool
He
also
said,
travels
"Fuck
back in time
Green
to kill
Lantern."
baby Hitler,
Maximum effort.
Pretty much.
but then at the very end, he can't go through with it.
I think we both know I don't have what it takes to do this, so I'm just gonna change your diaper real quick, and then I'm gonna come back with my friend Cable. He loves killing kids.
And just like the first film had the Deadpool rap, this has the Deadpool rap X-Force remix, once again by Team Headkick. Okay, so next week we're going to be moving on to 2019's Dark Phoenix. But let's end this video with our danger.
Yes, Dark Phoenix is the next video for the reaction.